What if I told you that medieval people actually ate ice cream, enjoyed exotic spices from across the world, and hosted dinner parties that would make modern food influencers jealous? Forget everything you think you know about medieval cuisine, being bland, peasant gruel, and moldy bread. The medieval kitchen was actually a sophisticated culinary laboratory, where master chefs created dishes so elaborate and flavorful that they'd fit right into today's finest restaurants. I'm about to take you on a journey through time to discover the shocking truth about what people really ate during the Middle Ages. You'll learn about secret ingredients that cost more than gold, cooking techniques so advanced they seem almost magical, and dining customs so extravagant they make our modern dinner parties look like children's tea time. By the end of this video, you'll never look at medieval history the same way again. Let's start with the biggest myth that needs to be demolished immediately. Medieval food was not the tasteless, colorless mush that movies and TV shows have convinced us it was. In fact, medieval cooks had access to an incredible variety of spices and ingredients that would make any modern chef envious. Saffron was worth more than its weight in gold, literally. A single pound of this precious spice could buy you an entire house in some parts of medieval Europe. The wealthy medieval kitchen was stocked with cinnamon from Ceylon, black pepper from India, ginger from Asia, and cloves from the remote Spice Islands. These weren't just luxury items sitting unused in pantries. Medieval cooks used them liberally, creating complex flavor profiles that rivaled anything we see in contemporary fine dining. They understood the art of layering spices to create depth and complexity in their dishes. But here's where it gets really interesting. Medieval cooks didn't just throw spices together randomly. They followed sophisticated principles of flavor balance that modern culinary schools still teach today. They understood which spices complemented each other and which ones would overpower a dish. They knew that certain spices needed to be added at specific points during cooking to maximize their impact. Take the medieval concept of the four humors, for example. This wasn't just medieval medical theory, it was a complete culinary philosophy. Cooks carefully balanced hot and cold, wet and dry ingredients to create what they believed were perfectly harmonious dishes. A hot spice like ginger would be paired with a cold ingredient like pork. This wasn't superstition, it was an early form of flavor science. The medieval kitchen itself was a marvel of engineering and organization. Picture this: massive fireplaces that could roast an entire ox with sophisticated pulley systems for turning spits. Multiple cooking stations, each specialized for different techniques. Massive cauldrons for stews and soups. Specialized ovens for baking bread and pastries. These weren't primitive cooking spaces. They were highly advanced culinary workshops. Master cooks in medieval castles and wealthy households were treated like celebrities. They commanded enormous salaries, had teams of assistants, and were often poached by competing noble families who wanted to upgrade their culinary programs. These weren't simple servants. They were culinary artists whose reputations could make or break a lord's social standing. The techniques these medieval masters used were surprisingly modern. They understood the importance of timing, temperature control, and presentation. They knew how to create complex sauces using reduction techniques that wouldn't look out of place in a modern French kitchen. They practiced what we now call molecular gastronomy, using natural gelling agents and color-changing ingredients to create dishes that would astonish their guests. Medieval recipe books reveal cooking methods that seem almost impossibly advanced for their time. They describe techniques for making ice cream using snow and salt, methods for preserving meat that kept it fresh for months without refrigeration, and ways to create artificial flavors using distillation and fermentation that rival modern food science. But let's talk about the ingredients themselves, because this is where medieval cuisine gets truly fascinating. Medieval gardens weren't just growing basic vegetables. They cultivated exotic fruits, rare herbs, and specialty crops that many modern gardeners have never heard of. The juice, made from unripe grapes, was used as a souring agent in countless dishes. Rose petals and violets weren't just decorative, they were essential flavoring ingredients. Medieval cooks had access to ingredients we've completely forgotten about today. They used plants like costmary, tansy, and pennyroyal to create unique flavors that no longer exist in modern cuisine. They harvested exotic mushrooms from forests and knew exactly which ones provided the best flavors for different types of dishes. The preservation techniques they developed were revolutionary. They created complex pickling solutions, smoking methods, and salt-curing processes that kept food fresh and flavorful for extended periods. These weren't just survival techniques, they were ways to enhance and intensify flavors that made preserved food more desirable than fresh ones. Medieval dining customs were theatrical productions that put our modern dinner parties to shame. Imagine walking into a great hall where the tables are arranged in a precise hierarchy, each position communicating social status and political relationships. The meal itself was a carefully choreographed performance where every course told a story and every dish carried symbolic meaning. The concept of subtleties was perhaps the most spectacular aspect of medieval dining. These weren't just desserts, they were edible sculptures that depicted scenes from mythology, religion, or current events. Master cooks would create elaborate sugar castles, marzipan animals, and gelatin sculptures that moved and changed colors as guests watched in amazement. Table manners in medieval times were incredibly sophisticated, with detailed rules about how to hold utensils, which foods could be touched with fingers, and how to interact with fellow diners. These weren't arbitrary social conventions. They were carefully developed systems designed to facilitate conversation, demonstrate education, and show respect for both the food and fellow guests. The progression of courses followed complex patterns that modern restaurants still use today. Medieval banquets began with lighter dishes designed to stimulate appetite, moved through increasingly substantial courses, and concluded with sweets and digestive aids. This wasn't accidental, it was based on medieval understanding of digestion and nutrition that was surprisingly accurate. Perhaps most surprisingly, medieval cuisine included what we would recognize today as fusion cooking. Trade routes brought together ingredients and techniques from across the known world, creating dishes that blended European, Middle Eastern, and Asian influences. Medieval cookbooks contain recipes that sound like they could have come from modern fusion restaurants. The legacy of medieval cuisine extends far beyond historical curiosity. Many techniques, ingredients, and presentation styles that we consider quintessentially modern actually have their roots in medieval kitchens. The concept of the chef as artist, the importance of seasonal ingredients, the balance of flavors and textures, even the idea of food as entertainment, all trace back to medieval culinary traditions. So the next time someone tells you that medieval food was boring, bland, or primitive, you'll know the truth. The medieval kitchen was a place of innovation, artistry, and sophistication that created a culinary legacy still influencing how we eat today. Those medieval cooks weren't just feeding people, they were creating experiences, telling stories, and pushing the boundaries of what food could be. If this glimpse into medieval culinary artistry has sparked your curiosity, make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into the surprising sophistication of historical cultures. What other aspects of medieval life do you think have been misunderstood by popular culture? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video where we continue exploring the fascinating complexities of our past.